We are live here on the main channel. We're going to answer a lot of your questions today that were emailed. We'll be answering live questions as well. We got a lot to cover beyond that, including some breaking news out of Hershey, Pennsylvania. There's some good news, there's some bad news, and there's some ugly news that I'm getting from the Hershey, Pennsylvania show. It's very positive, and there's going to be some negative involved in it as well. Now, I also have some great news about RV financing / RV loans. I'm going to be getting into that and what you have to look forward to. Very positive information. For the most part, this is going to be a very positive live stream. Now, before I really get started in this, so where I'm going to go with this is kind of a statement that was made off of comments made towards me. So let me get into what occurred. So first off, as you know, I'm no longer working at the dealership in Pahrump, Nevada. In fact, the dealership in Pahrump, Nevada has officially closed as of mid-July of this year. So I'm no longer at the dealership in Nevada. Now, that came with a lot of interesting background. So I'm not going to use names. I'm not going to, smash anybody. I'm not going to, degrade anybody, anything of that nature. What I'm going to do is give you the facts. Fact number one is someone at the RV factory level, we're talking about high-ranking executive at the factory level, for some reason, has a vendetta out for me. I don't know why. I can't understand why. I think I'm really fair. My podcast, this channel, I think I'm fair to both, on both sides of things. I think I'm pretty down the middle and give a very direct, transparent view of the RV industry without all the glitz and the glamour. Okay. Hi there, Jose. Thank you for joining in from Spain. We are officially international, especially we do have a Spanish speaking channel. So anyway, where I'm going with this is this same RV executive apparently is trying to stop me from filming 2025 inventory because apparently, and this is what was quoted to me, the verbiage and language I use toward the RV industry is going to burn it down. Now, they used a different word than burn it down, but that's pretty much how the word that was used is kind of meaning like I'm trying to degrade the RV industry. I'm trying to bury the RV industry in a negative way. I have been very fair. And what I have to say to this RV executive, we're talking this person is a extremely high-ranking executive in the RV industry. I have three things to say to you. The first thing is, I've been very fair to everyone. Okay? Even with everything going on with Grand Design, with some of the Coachman Catalina stuff that I've covered over the year, everything that has been negative that I have spoken about, either here on this channel or on the podcast, I balance it out when there's good information. For example, I have been very harsh on Lippert, okay, for a while. And I just did a podcast episode that gave Lippert a lot of credit for coming through with something positive. So I give it both ways. If I dish out something negative and you do something positive in reaction, I'm going to give you credit where credit's due. So my question to this RV executive, why do you want to make an enemy out of me? Why? There's no need for it. I'm very transparent. I'm very down the middle. If you're scared of my transparency, then that worries me a little bit. Because why would you want to hide me? Why would you want to bury me? Why wouldn't you just want to work with me? 99.9% of the RV world on the manufacturing side does not have a problem with what I'm doing. I've been told as much. 99.9% of the RV factory executives, including one that I have beaten up a lot on both the podcast and here, don't have a problem with me. So why does the one person out of the entire industry have a problem with me? So this is what I propose. Okay? This is what I propose. Hello. I propose to this RV executive, I got two options for you. How about option number one? You and I have a phone call for 2 hours, 3 hours. Let's hash out our differences. If you are that upset with me where you try to get me fired from one job and now you're trying to block me from filming 2025 inventory, let's have a conversation man to man about what your problem is with me. And let's see if we can maybe come to some kind of agreement where we both can stick to each other's fences and just move on. Or number two, why don't you come on the podcast? Come on the podcast and let's talk about it. Let's have a live streamed podcast either here on this channel or on the main channel, and let's hash out our differences. And I'm going to only say this one thing. No, it's no one from Grand Design. Because that's what everybody's going to assume. It's not somebody from Grand Design. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. I am going to do this, though. On October 31st at 11:59 p.m., if you have not reached out to me and had some kind of conversation, the reason why I'm giving it to October 31st is because I know Dealer Days is coming up, Hershey's coming up. There's a lot of cleanup at the beginning of October from what goes on in September. So I understand that it ain't like you could take 2 hours out of your day to speak with this knucklehead. You have my phone number, and if you don't, I will bet you one of your employees has my cell phone number. I will guarantee it. Nobody's bothering me yet, Omaha. Here to give you a background. I went to go film 2025 inventory at a couple of dealerships. Okay. Some of the dealerships I've made it very public that I've been visiting them, and I've made it public on social media to give them a boost in their marketing. And they've been very satisfied and been very happy with what I'm doing. Okay. And apparently these three dealers don't want me to show up anymore. And this came, and I know where it came from. It came from this RV executive because they all had the same verbiage as my former employer. So this person, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's I look like somebody hates. I don't know what it is. But it's one person out of the entire industry that hates my guts. Well, no, there's two people, but only one at the RV factory level. There is a YouTuber that hates me. And no, it's not Liz Amazing. It's someone else. But there is a YouTuber out there that absolutely hates my guts. But that is what it is. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to stop it. There, probably was, you're funny. Yeah, I just don't know why you would want to make an enemy out of me. Why would you want to make an enemy out of me? That makes no sense. Right? So, good Lord, none of my moderators are in, huh? Hold on, I gotta put some people on timeout. Okay. All right. So let's set that aside for a minute. We now have some news out of Hershey, Pennsylvania. The Hershey Show. Are you looking to work for another dealership? Maybe. I currently kind of work for somebody already. I do a lot of used stuff. Do I ever want to be a manager or finance manager at a dealership again, like an RV dealership? Maybe. If the right opportunity came around, yes, I would definitely look at it. I have a buddy of mine on the in the south, southern states of the United States that offered me to come and help him out with a dealership. I won't tell you where. That's not fair to him. But I told him I'd think about it. But yeah. Yeah, if if someone if and right now is a bad time to be hunting for a management job in the RV industry because there's just none out there because new RVs are moving so slowly. Used is moving at a decent pace, but new has really been struggling for what now 2 years. So but if a manager called me, if someone called me and said, hey, come do finance for me, I would definitely consider it if it was the right opportunity. But there's news out of Hershey, Pennsylvania. I had 4 of my sources tell me there's some really good news in Hershey, there's some really bad news in Hershey, and there's some really ugly news in Hershey, Pennsylvania at the Great American RV Show, biggest show in the United States. So the first thing is the good. The good is, from what I'm understanding, most of the dealerships at the Hershey, Pennsylvania store have been able to sell 2023 and 2024 inventory. Okay, so basically what happened is they didn't take that inventory necessarily there, but what they've been doing, from what I'm understanding, is unless there's a specific thing that a 2025 has that a 2024 doesn't, equipment wise, they've been moving people from 25s to 24s and basically taking a nice big loss on those 24s. Now, that's good news for all fronts. That's good news for the factory, that's good news for the dealer, and that's good news for the customer. So everybody's winning on the 2023 and 2024 purchases coming out of the Hershey, Pennsylvania show. There's also some really good news on the Class B front. So Pleasureway and several other Class B motorhome companies are actually having a really good show. This is a good sign. So part of that is the updates they've made in equipment and the discounted prices that they got from the chassis companies. Now the hard part is for companies like Pleasureway, like Road Trek, companies like them, Winnebago, Midwest Vans, is now you have this conundrum you're in where 2024s have the appearance. It doesn't mean it's right, it doesn't mean it's real, but they have the appearance of being less money than 2024s. So what has happened is people are doing their homework and they're like, well, I get more in a 2025 for the same money as a 2024. So how they're going to move on, how Pleasureway and Winnebago are going to incentivize customers and dealers to sell the 2024s is going to be very interesting. Ton of used late model units. There's a lot of RVs going through the auction. It's not just one or two. Oh yeah, yeah, no, Law Dog, you're absolutely right. Absolutely correct. Now, that's a great segue, Law Dog. The bad news is the big iron is not selling. Okay. So your big luxury fifth wheels, your big luxury motorhomes. Now, what's happening is there's two sets of sales. Okay. The number that a dealer is going to say to a customer, to another dealer, to a competitor, to anybody is everything that and throw up against the wall. Meaning the people are either super buried in a trade, they don't have the credit, there's a interest rate battle that they know they can't win because interest rates that low don't exist. Bad credit. They will tell you every deal that they made, but how many are going to go over the curb and actually be taken possession of is very small. So I got updated about an hour ago. So that would have been 8 o'clock East Coast time. And as far as everybody has told me, the big luxury diesel pushers, the big luxury fifth wheels are not moving. Not even 24s, not even 23s. Now they've flung some mud up against the wall. They've flung some monkey poop against the wall to see if it sticks. And if it sticks, then obviously they'll have more deals than what they're thinking. But the reality is all that big iron stuff is not, that big dollar, high-end dollar stuff ain't selling. Now, that's a little spooky because the mid-tier stuff is kind of selling. So when I'm talking about mid-tier, I'm talking about Forest River Sabre, Keystone Cougar, Rockwood Flagstaff fifth wheels, Grand Design Reflection. I'm talking about the lower tier Solitudes, the lower tier North Points, the not full body paint stuff. This is stuff that is actually moving, not at a great pace, but is actually selling. And not only selling, but actually folks that will qualify for the loan, even when they're upside down in a trade. The ugly is that next week, when the dealers go to Elkhart, Indiana, the manufacturers are in for a shock that their winter is going to be dried up. It's going to be worse than last year because I think after what these big, and we're not talking about small dealers. I mean, they're small in the scale compared to Camping World or compared to like Blue Compass, which used to be RV retailers. But these mid-major type of dealers have 8, 10, 12, 15 locations. They're waking up today going, they're going to wake up tomorrow and go, we still got a lot of work to do to get our inventory right. So when we go to Elkhart, when we go see the new stuff, and by the way, Forest River was cheap and didn't get anybody with a real name. They got two, I've heard the music. The country stars are actually got really good music. I actually think the music's really cool. But, you know, what happened to be able to get guys like Kid Rock? Oh, yeah, they're too cheap this year, right? Why isn't Thor getting like Ludacris or any of these guys? Oh, wait, too cheap to do that. Nobody's getting Snoop Dogg. Too cheap to do that. Well, it's not necessarily just because they're cheap. It's also because there's no money. And the reality is everybody knows that this year is not going to be a good year. Not on the wholesale side. I now am starting to see a trend where once the Fed next week says that interest rates are not going down, then more than likely what's going to happen is I believe people will start buying again. They'll start coming out and buying those 23s, those 24s, and maybe occasionally a 25. I just do not see. The only segment I see that's going to outpace 2024 inventory is toy haulers. Because especially the West Coast, you got the new Razor Pro R, you got the new Can-Am X3 that just the new kit that makes it 6 inches wider. So now you have to have 80 inches of width. So the new toy haulers all have 77 to 80 inches of width. So those older toy haulers, those 23s and 24s, are outdated already, which is interesting because what are we going to do about those when we get them on trade when people are going to bigger, better toys? Very interesting. Now, as far as RV financing is concerned, one of the major changes is there's going to be 2 lenders that are going to eliminate the age stipulation as long as you have good credit. Now, that does not mean go run and finance a 1998 travel trailer. That's going to be very hard to do no matter what you do because the value just isn't there. This is mainly to help with those bigger iron diesel pushers. That's what they're looking for. Those looking for those big expensive motorhomes. They're 25, 28 years old that still have a good book value that can be financed. Yeah, they're good. Yeah, Rockwood and Flagstaff are really good. They're really nice fifth wheels. So you're going to have 2 lenders that are going to start getting into that. So if you don't want to, if you're see, that's the hardest part is people are looking for $20,000 motorhomes and they want to finance them. That's extremely hard to do, even with this age restriction being lifted. You're going to need like 60% down. Well, first off, it depends on your credit, Omaha. So if I were, every advice I ever give everybody is the dealership is going to get you a better deal overall if you use one of their lenders. We all use the basic same 11 lenders, and then most of us have some kind of connection to local credit unions. If you use the dealership's lending core, you'll get a better overall deal than if you go out and get financing on your own. Now, if you're planning on buying private party, I would recommend starting at your local credit union and then working your way into, let's say, SCE Financial or someone of that nature. That's what I'd recommend. Okay, let's get to some of the questions. I had to write them down because I left my laptop. Okay, this was a good one. Dear Honey Badger, we are set to start hunting for a 32-foot bumper to bumper travel trailer that we can tow with our 2019 Toyota Tundra. What I don't see on your channel and I'd like to request is, could you do a top 5 travel trailer brand? We're looking for fiberglass. We'd love to see you do that type of video because it would give us an idea of what the first 5 trailers we should research. Yeah. I actually was thinking about doing that. I was actually thinking about doing that Stephen A. Smith style from First Take. Like, give me number 5. Bam! I love Stephen A. Smith. Yeah, I'm going to work on that. I'm thinking about working on that. Oh, probably Tuesday, Wednesday of this coming week. But see, I have an appointment with the guy that's supposed to edit my book or proofread my book. Because I'm at the ending stages of finishing my book. So just happy I'm not preaching religion. Yeah, I'm far from religious. Okay. Dear Honey Badger, have you heard of any, I can't read my handwriting. Have you heard of anyone being able to use their VA loan to buy a fifth wheel to live in? No, a VA loan is for a permanent structure. You cannot buy an RV with a VA loan, period. Just can't do it. By the way, good question. Dear Honey Badger, we've been living in our fifth wheel for the last 6 years. We have a P.O. box in South Dakota. However, we never moved our physical address to our daughter's house. We would like to next year be able to start looking at higher end, bigger fifth wheels. And we are finding out to buy the truck and to buy the fifth wheel and to take a loan on both, we are going to need a physical address, as the car lenders no longer allow us to use just a PO box. We found this out by going to Navy Federal Credit Union, and they've simply told us that since we don't have a physical address, they would not be able to give us the truck loan. How long would you what would you suggest we do, and how long do you think it'll take for us to be able to do it? Okay. First off, make this very clear. Lenders across the United States, except for one, do not finance live-ins. Period, folks. They don't. So I'll give you an example. 5 months ago, I had someone on this channel that still continues to badmouth me because I don't know. Who knows why she does. She told me that she was not going to buy a fifth wheel until her house sold. Okay. I understood that. So I said, okay, great. You're paying cash. She said, no, I want to finance it. And I said, well, this is what you need to do. I gave her the instructions of what to do. I told her, move everything physical to a family member's house. Once you've done that, open a credit card, brand new credit card, maybe one or two. You don't ever have to use them. So that way, that new address now reports on your credit bureau and it reports as a physical home. She told me I was crazy. She would never do that. So here's what ended up happening. The day her house sold, she went down and put a deposit on a Grand Design Momentum fifth wheel. Not going to tell you where. And the finance manager submitted the information to the bank using her house address, not knowing that she had sold the house. Nobody communicated it to the finance manager so he could sit with her and have this conversation. And of course, the banks, because it is a $150,000 fifth wheel and it is known to be lived in, Googled her address and found out the house sold because that information is public knowledge. Okay, that is public knowledge. So she got turned down. By the way, this lady had perfect credit. She went down to her own credit union. They turned her down. She went down to several banks, probably had her credit run probably 30 times, absolutely nucleared her 800 score. She could never get approved. So she badmouths me whenever she gets a chance in the comments section. I let her do it. I'll leave her comments there. I don't care. She doesn't say anything like extremely rude or anything, but she badmouths me. The reason why she badmouths me is because I gave her the advice, and then she calls me and she asks me, well, what can you do for me? Well, there's nothing I can do. She nuked her credit with everybody, and she's got to start all over. She's got to wait 90 days for all those things to fall off. And then she has to start with getting a credit card. It's going to take her a year and a half. She's pissed. But I told her. So people badmouth me all the time, Log Dog. It's not a big deal. The only time I really do anything is when they put links in the thing or use foul language, then I delete their stuff. But here's my recommendation to you. Go get a credit card tomorrow in a family member's address. Change everything you've got. So let's say you're in South Dakota with your P.O. box, which is fine. You need to get rid of your South Dakota driver's licenses, and you need to get into the state that a family member's in and get that license. Then once you have that license and you've changed your address to that family member's address, you have all your mail forwarded to that address. See, this is the problem. When you start trying to cheat the government of sales tax and you start trying to cheat governments out of license fees, you kind of typically start to screw yourself a little bit in the long run. Maybe in the short term, everything's awesome and bitching, but in the long run, it's not a good idea. Okay. So once you've done that, open up a couple credit cards. You don't ever have to use them. Maybe cut them up once you got them. Maybe use them once to get a soda at a liquor store and make a payment. Oh, that's right. You have to make a payment. So once you open it up, you have to use it one time, pay it off after 30 days so it shows up on your credit bureau as a payment. It'll automatically change your physical address, and voila, it's a whole lot easier to get a loan when you have a physical address on your credit bureau when the house hasn't sold. So make sure you do that, okay? And then it'll be easier when you're ready to get a loan. Now, hopefully I don't get blacklisted by every bloody bank on God's green earth because they hear me say that, because I know all the little gray areas, right? All right. No, that's not adult beverage. That is a soda. All right, next question. My husband, my husband and I went to Camping World in Florida recently, and we were trying to buy a Coleman little travel trailer, the one you say is a pile of crap. What ended up happening is we went from $13,995 to almost $20,000 total out the door after all the fees. We went ahead and agreed because we couldn't find anything cheaper that was new at the size and weight we were at. When they submitted over to financing, they originally quoted us. They never promised us, but they quoted us 9.99% interest rate. Well, we were okay with that at the moment because it was the same rate, almost the same rate as our credit union. It was only a quarter point higher. The difference is we could get a 12-year loan instead of a 10-year loan. So we saw it and went for it. When we were scheduled to pick it up, we came to the dealership, did our entire walkthrough. We even brought one of our friends slash neighbors that actually has lived in an RV before, and he helped us inspect it before we were going to take it. When we went in to talk out to the finance person, our interest rate went from 9.95 to 17.95, and the loan term went from 12 years to 10 years. They said they tried to call us, and of course, we never felt like we got a phone call or a text. Now, I'm attaching here the credit reports that I have pulled off of Credit Karma that shows that our FICO score is over 720. Can you please explain to us how Camping World could have been so cruel to make that much money on the interest rate from us? Okay, so first off, I don't know. I'm not going to speak on the dealership itself. First of all, Camping World is individually run by a general manager. So there are some really good Camping World dealerships out there, and there are some really bad ones. There are some really well-run ones, and there are some really bad ones. And that goes for anybody. That's not just Camping World, okay? So first off, at $13,995, I want to start with this. At $13,995, Camping World across the majority of the United States is going to charge you probably around a $2,000 freight charge, and probably, I would say, between $800 and $1,200 in a prep fee, okay, or a get ready fee, or whatever you want to call it. So that 13,995 has always been around 17, 18 grand. It's just the way it is. Then you got sales tax, license, doc fee, etc. All right. Let's set that aside for a second. First off, I did read your credit report. I appreciate you sending it to me. Credit Karma is nowhere near accurate. And I don't say that enough. I don't say that enough on my finance videos, and I apologize about that because I don't. And I should say that more and make it more of a point. What you see on your phone with Credit Karma and Experian.com is all a fugazi. It's a fugazi. It's all BS. It's all baloney. It's all malarkey. It means nothing. When I look at your credit history that you sent me, you are a candidate for 17.95. That is the correct interest rate. Okay. Your credit history is not that good. I'm actually very surprised that they got you approved and had you come in and didn't say anything, which means they got you approved without proof of income. That's rare. That does happen. Merrick and Medallion Bank do approve deals, and it looks like you have good job history. It looks like you have good car credit history. But the biggest problem that you have, if you look at your credit bureau, and if you're watching this now or watching this later, the biggest problem with your credit bureau is you guys have a ton of cell phone collection type stuff, cable collection, medical collections. You have a bunch of these small little $30, $50, $100 collections that it is absolutely hammering your credit. You also use like everybody else, you're using your credit cards for daily stuff. I would assume that you're self-employed because of what fluctuation of how your credit card balance is, which means you probably work for yourself, which is freaking awesome. I love when people work for themselves. So the reality is, I don't know why what probably happened is, here's what I assume happened. I assume that somebody at the desk, probably a sales manager, a desk manager, GM, saw your credit score. Then because at the top of your credit, when we run your credit through 700 credit or whatever, at the top, it gives it gives you how many lines of credit, how many satisfied lines of credit, and tells you your highest ever car loan. Okay. They probably looked at that, saw your $26,000 car loan, and was like, "Oh, this is going to be easy." You were probably a 708, 709, whatever it was, 680, 685, whatever you were when they ran it. And what happened is they saw that $26,000 car loan, saw you make a good enough money, saw your outgo and go, "Oh, this is slam dunk," stapled together, threw into finance. Finance probably did the same thing. And then they clicked it over to their couple of mid-tier banks and their credit unions and got declines all the way around. And they probably like, "What the deuce? And what the heck? What the crap?" And then finally probably opened up the credit and went, "Oh, there's 6 collections here. There's 8 collections there. Oh crap, why didn't we look at that?" And that's more than likely what occurred, because normally, yes, there is something called flying the plane. But generally when we have somebody fly the plane, there's usually an explanation of, "Hey, you want 6.99, but that really doesn't exist right now. But we'll see what we can do." Okay? More than likely, you're going to end up around 10% or 8% or, 8.5% or whatever it may be. And then it's a phone call like, "Hey, you didn't get approved for 699. Sorry." So that's normally kind of what happens in that respect, in that specific scenario. And I'm sorry that happened to you because, that's not normal. Okay. And I know more than likely, because here's what I do know. They probably didn't force you, like in the rest of the email, they didn't force you to take it. They didn't really and you even said that they didn't have all the documents completely prepared, probably because they had a feeling that you were going to blow out of there. So talk about RVs and financing. So just to kind of give you an idea, what you need to do is go back to the drawing board. Know that you are a 17.95% 10-year candidate, and reverse the math and find out how much coach you need to buy. I would assume probably around 10, 12 grand. So you really need to find something a little bit used. I do have something used in California. So if you want to come and drive across the country to California, I actually have a dealership in Southern California that actually has something that would be perfect. It's the same size, and we could probably get you a little bit better, a lot better payment, not better interest rate, but a better payment. So if you want to do that, hit me up. You know, even if you want to fly out and see it and do the paperwork and rent a truck and take it back, whatever you guys want to do, I'm more than happy to help you. Okay. Tax and finances. Yeah, my stuff's more about RVs, but I'm pretty good at finance stuff. I just don't talk about it a lot. Oh, pardon me, man. I think I'm either getting sick or I'm still sick or whatever. Okay, this is the last question that I got, and then I'm gonna go into some other stuff. Okay. Dear Honey Badger, God, I gotta get better at my own handwriting. Dear Honey Badger, we seem to think that it would be a good fit for us to buy a smaller diesel pusher, but my husband says that we have to have the biggest motor available, even if we're going to go to a 34 to 36 foot diesel pusher. When I look around at the price point of one of these motorhomes that fit the specifics that my husband wants, we're talking brand new around $600,000. Now our home is worth 1.2 million. I also have a 3,500 square foot house with a pool, a jacuzzi, and a bunch of other extras that make me feel like I'm in a beautiful home and I've raised 6 children in this home. Why am I going to spend half of what my home's worth for something that is going to be a toolkit and sense of humor, as you put? Do you have any advice for my husband on finding something more reasonable? Because even finding a used one is still $300,000 to $400,000. Okay, so first off, what your husband, so there's a fallacy that occurs, has been on the internet for the last 30 something years. You need power, you need horsepower to push the coach up the hill. You need horsepower to be able to tow. These are all fictionalized things that only are necessary and only true when the motorhome is super heavy. Okay. So there's only a few brands out there that do the side mounted radiator, the 450 horsepower motor at 36, 34, 35 feet. Newmar is one of them. In fact, I have a Newmar New Air on the lot, and yeah, it's probably around 370, 380 grand used. Okay. That coach is more about the ego than it is about camping. And there's nothing wrong with your husband's ego. Your husband's ego is telling him he needs the bigger motor because of he feels he wants to go up the hill or feel like he can go up the hill. It's all power to weight ratio. So I'm going to give you guys a great story, okay, to help you out with this, all right? So I'm in a 1986 Jamboree Class C, okay? The wife and the kids called him Jack, okay? And Jack had a 350 in it, 350 gas. And we're going up to a place called Lake Cachuma. And right in front of us is a 40-foot Allegro bus, 450 horsepower motor, side-mounted radiator, gorgeous $500,000 coach. And he's struggling to get up the hill at 40 feet, and he's not even towing anything. Okay. So me and my little Class C drop it down in a second and blow by him in this 1988 350 that's loaded to the brim with water, wife, 2 kids, And if you met my wife, you would understand back then for a 3-day vacation, she packs for 2 weeks. Okay. And of course, my kids go through like clothes like every hour, but that's nor here nor there back then. So here we go, drop it into gear, blow by this Allegro bus all the way up to the top of the hill. Now, when I got to the top of the hill and started going down and coasting either flat or going downhill, he caught up to me, okay? Obviously. We pull into Lake Kachuma, and I'm sitting there at the ranger station. The guy is right on my butt. He gets out of the diesel. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get in a fight with this guy, right? And I roll down the window, and the guy says to me, wow. He goes, I just spent $480,000 on this coach, and I just got my ass whipped by a guy that's got a motorhome that looks like it's falling apart. How the heck did you do that? And my daughter, God bless her soul, my daughter Brenda, at 9 years old, turns to the guy and says, sir, it's power to weight ratio. And that right there tells you everything. So at 36 foot, you don't need 450 horsepower motor unless you want to unless you're going to get a really heavy coach. Now, Newmar, New Air, and a few others that make that 35, 36, 34 foot with a 450, they're heavy coaches. They need the 450 to push it up the hill. Okay. But when you get into like a Winnebago Journey, you get into maybe a Tuscany XTE. You get into, oh God, I can't even remember what the Jayco was called back then. But when you get into these, when you get into the smaller Berkshires by Forest River, they come with a 330, a 340, a 350, a 360, because you don't need that much power because it's a lighter weight coach. It doesn't have all those heavy amenities to it. So that's what I would kind of say. Like, if I took a Winnebago Journey that had a 350 horsepower motor, I put it next to a New Air, 36-foot New Air with a 450, or a 36-foot Allegro Breeze with a 450, or whatever it may be, I'll race them up any hill, and they're only going to beat me maybe by a coach length. Okay, so just keep that in mind. When you're buying horsepower, you're buying 1 or 2 coach lengths going up the hill. You're not going to be Speed Racer going up the hill. Fact of life. Okay. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Now, last thing to close us out for the night. Once again, I just want to reiterate to the RV executive, the RV factory executive that has a problem with me, the one person out of all the industry that has a problem with me, this is my olive branch to you. And I'm going to do this olive branch on the podcast too. And I'm going to do it on my October 1st RV industry update as well. I'm going to put an olive branch out to you saying, you are more than welcome to call me and talk to me. If we have differences, if you and I have differences, we can work them out. Because the rest of the industry doesn't have a problem with me. Most of the industry wants me to keep going. If you guys would be shocked at this, but I have been more encouraged to keep doing what I'm doing by RV factory people and RV dealerships. If you can believe it, in the words of one RV factory executive to me, said, you're probably the only person on the internet that has the balls to talk about most of this stuff without having the intention of making $1 million. And I said, well, no, because if I made $1 million, I'd still keep the thing. So don't think that I don't have a motive to make money. I do have a motive to make money. I do want to make money at this, but I don't want to sacrifice the content to make the money. And he says, I respect that. That was about 3 weeks ago I had that conversation with the person. Because I'm trying to find out why this person has a problem with me. Nobody can tell me. I can't explain it. It just blows my mind. We got a 33-foot 1992 Fleetwood Bounder growing up. Loved it. Oh yeah, that Bounder was ugly, but it was a tank. Built like an absolute brick house. Oof. So yeah, give me a call, man, or come on the podcast. That'd be the best. Let's hash it out on the podcast live. That way they can see the community can see your perspective and see why I'm such a harm to the industry. And then what I'm going to do in turn is I'm going to share the emails. If you came with me in person, I would share the emails with you of people that told me that they wouldn't have ever bought an RV if they didn't run into my channel. You know how much that makes me smile and makes me know I'm doing the right thing when I got a person. Check this out. I will eventually. I want to give the person an opportunity. The reason why I stewed with exposing this person, I stewed for 2 days. I talked to a really good friend of mine, and I talked to actually a guy that is a fan of the podcast about this. I talked to one of my attorneys about this. I talked to a really, really close acquaintance of mine that's in the industry about this. And I talked to probably my best friend in the universe about this. In fact, that was the first person I talked to, was my best friend. I mean, I blew up at him. Like, like, ah! But, I had stewed on this. And I'm like, you know what? I got to give this person an opportunity to respond. And I don't think this person would respond if I expose them right now. I want the olive branch to be out there, because I think if I have the olive branch out there, then maybe I can prevent the bridge from getting nuked. And maybe we can come to some kind of, I'm never going to compromise the content at all, but maybe he can get a better understanding of what my intentions are and what I'm trying to do. And maybe if he read some of the emails that a lot of you have sent me, I mean, I remember the email I got, the first ever email I got after the frame failure, frame flex thing. So Josh, the RV nerd, came on, said it was half of 1/2% of fifth wheels have frame flex / frame failure. Matt's RV reviews kind of left it alone. JD at Big Truck Big RV tried to have some kind of interview, and that kind of turned into something that, well, JD will tell you, okay? It didn't turn out as favorably as I assume he wanted it to be, okay? So even after all that and what I talk about, and I talked about it from both perspectives. I talked about it from Lippert's perspective. I talked about it from the consumer perspective. I mean, I really laid into Grand Design about it, okay? I got an email, what was it, early June, from a young lady that said, we watched every one of your podcasts about the Grand Design frame flex problem. We watched every one of your videos on the main channel about it. If we didn't watch your videos, we would have never bought a fifth wheel. And even though you probably be mad at us, we bought a Momentum. So even with everything that I talked about, even with all the problems out there that customers are alluding to, because of this content, they felt comfortable enough that they knew they were getting themselves into. And that makes me feel good. I'm not mad at them. You got to go with your gut. You got to go with your heart. You got to go with your soul. All I do is educate you, right? I've had hundreds of emails, hundreds of direct messages sent to me by people that have made it very abundantly clear that if they did not run into my channel or my podcast, they would have never bought an RV because of all the crap on the internet. And I still get an email every once in a while. Hey, guess what? My slide out took a crap. Hey, guess what? My refrigerator died. I get those. And the people, because they know what the warranty process is, because they know what the expectations are, they know they're planning better. They know how to plan. They know how to work around all the problems that an RV is eventually going to have. It's not interrupting their trips. It's not interrupting the lifestyle. It's not interrupting what's going on with them. So that makes me feel good. And that makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. So why would you want to make an enemy of somebody that's actually helping you sell stuff? That's what I want to know. Why make an enemy out of somebody that's helping you sell stuff, that's helping you get rid of inventory, that's getting new buyers to actually get into the market because all the negativity on the internet? I hate to say this, and Josh, if you're watching, this is nothing personal, brother, but people just don't trust the RV dealership corporate YouTubers anymore. You know, I have this thing called vidIQ on YouTube, and I've seen a downward trend in views amongst all the big creators. And the reason why is that trust factor's gone because, you know, there's just been some missteps. It's not their fault. I don't blame them. You got a legal team that's hovering over you. You're not in control of your own content. It's tough. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to be a part of. You know, it's not easy to be told this is what you got to say and this is what you got to do. Not easy. One of the toughest things you're going to go through as a human being. So, say la vie. Anyway, I gotta get going, but we'll see you guys next week, 6 p.m. Pacific time next Saturday. You guys remember toolkit and sense of humor.